Hey everyone, and welcome to another interview from the One Piece live action cast and crew. I'm Zach. I'm here with our editor Delaney,
Howdy.
and we also have Brodsky, our resident OPLA expert.
How you doing?
Good. And today we have, you may know him as Klahadore, but I think more people probably know him for his more, let's call it, insidious character, Kuro. We have Alexander Maniatis with us. How's it going, Alexander?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you for having me. How are you guys?
Good, of course. We're doing well. Everyone doing well?
Oh
uh,
yeah.
good, good. So yeah, just out of curiosity, how did I'll ask the biggest, broadest question first. What drove you into a career acting?
That is a
Biggest,
loaded
broadest. Yeah, it is.
question.
Yeah.
I think as a child growing up, I loved enter to entertain. I think because I was quite the opposite of that. Quiet and introvert. I used to be, either by myself drawing, either making music. And then I met my best friend in grade one or grade two. So we've been friends now for 33 years. And he used to sing in this group in primary school, and that's how I got into music and essentially performing. Um, yeah, and that's what sort of like started this whole thing for me.
Uh,
Oh, do you start off? You
so
said like doing like
yeah.
music and stuff first, like performing.
Yes, so my first great big love is music. So I sing as well, and I play the piano and I play the guitar. I used to be in a 70s inspired rock band where I was the vocalist. So that is sort of like one of the big passions.
Oh,
What
that's
what
amazing.
inspirations for the '70s inspired rock band?
I would definitely say The Doors, Janis Joplin. I think those were two of the main ones that we really loved.
It's cool. Um, so how did you fall into the role in One Piece from that? Yeah.
So I ended up studying drama in Pretoria where I grew up. And after my studies, I was sort of like out of the loop for a while, a couple of years, and then 2016 I decided to get back into it. And then eventually I met my agent Suzanne at Stella, whom I really, really love. She is absolutely phenomenal. And you sort of like work your way up to the characters that you get to audition for. And essentially Kuro or Klahadore, and it was about 6 months back and forth for the audition.
Wow.
6 months, really?
It was about six
Oh
How
months.
how
Yeah.
man.
much did they how much did they feed you for that time? Was it just sort of like I know they sent you sides or
Literally?
monologues to do, but like how
Not
much
literally
did they
say.
kind of
Okay, good.
give you piece by piece?
So the first script that we received, everything, it was called Project Panda, so we had no idea what it was. They developed sides specifically for the auditions. The characters had different names, but essentially the essence of those characters. And it was, you could definitely tell, obviously now, knowing after playing it, you could see that these were the characters. To obviously try and see whether you get the essence of these characters.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
brilliant.
I not to immediately shower you with compliments, but unless I don't know if it's too early
It's
in
my
the
job,
interview.
Zach.
Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean you fit that role not only like a glove, but you enhanced the glove to extend a metaphor. It's I'm just like even hearing your voice right now. You have such a distinctive, in the best of ways voice. That it gives you chills like listening to it in the series, and I don't think you're up to some sort of insidious plan here. But it definitely it's definitely conveyed well. Some of it I'm assuming was over COVID too, so that must have been challenging.
It was basically because South Africa had quite strict rules when it came to COVID, and I know that when we started filming, before we did One Piece, the year before that, I did another production, and I remember everybody was obviously wearing masks, all these shields, and it was only the actors who were allowed once you were on set to remove your mask or your shield. And it was the same with One Piece, where we were out of sort of like the hectic phase of it, and yeah, well, that's sort of like after the hard
Yeah.
lockdown and so things were slightly more relaxed, but I remember, we had to get tested whether we went for hair and makeup test or a costume fitting or rehearsals. And essentially before you went to set. So you had to get tested the day before to know whether it was safe for you to be where you were supposed to be.
Um,
That's nice to hear, like kind of like the precautions that they took because it's obviously a very stressful time. Then like
I'm sure.
it has to things have to keep going. Yeah,
And I think especially for the scale, from a business point of view, I totally understand it.
yeah,
There's a lot of money and effort and um, soul that went into this. And if somebody had to get sick and it, had to affect all of the
everything.
other actors or crew members, it would be a tsunami effect on, on those sets. So in that regards, I totally understand why
Yeah.
it happened
Oh
done
yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
say comforting too to hear the precautions, not only just for you, for like this, for like everyone involved, like,
Yeah.
testing every day, stuff like that. It's stressful, but at the same time, it's so much better to be safe.
Safe, and also because I mean we were people with families and
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, so I think it was also to keep everyone around us safe as well.
well, especially because so much of the cast is based out of South Africa, which I realized as I was doing more research when we were looking at more people, which is amazing, by the way, because I love that this is sort of a series which is adding that extra exposure. But like a lot of these people are, they're local. They're not just coming over. Which even the folks who do have to fly in, because I know there's people from all across the world involved in the show. But people got to live here, man. Um, how long? You guys are going to remember better than I will. How long ago did they announce that the series was in production? Was that like 2018, 2019? I'm new here. I don't
20,
know anything.
2017, I think is when they like first announced
2017.
it. Netflix got it, I think, in 2019. And
Right.
and Alexander, you'd be better at knowing when it started filming, maybe. But I think it was 2021, right?
2021, excuse me, I know that they brought the lead actors over in the last quarter of 2021 because they had to start with their stunt training. And then I had my first audition, I think, in 2021, the first two rounds, and then yeah, 2023 we started early. Oh, sorry,
So
2022.
I don't think I had the chance to
So
ask anyone.
stroke.
I don't think I had the chance to ask anyone yet. So you filmed like mostly in one location in that house mansion. Um, I think I may have seen some extra about the specific place where it was, but how was it filming there? I think the same, the outside and the inside is the same place, right? It's
So it was some of the sets, rooms of this mansion were replicated at the studio, at the Cape Town Film Studios, where most of it was filmed. And then there was another studio that they replicated, that corridor where Kira walks through and then slashes the walls and then eventually through the wall. That was also created at another place. And then the mansion was based, if I remember correctly, in Constantia in Cape Town, which was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
The
The
kitchen
details of those sets.
was
Yeah.
the kitchen was essentially an indoor swimming pool that they turned into the kitchen.
Oh, right. I did see that.
Like
Yeah.
thinking back on it, like the layers of like having that top floor, it made kind of sense that it's a swimming pool. I would never have guessed.
You know, the sunken kitchen is always a great
Oh,
design aesthetic.
What insane person builds a room like this? Oh, they don't. That's right.
Well, I don't know if Klahadore is the one who built it or not. Well, no, it wasn't. I guess that doesn't make sense.
I'm just talking in general. You don't
No,
need
I
to have
know.
insane architectural knowledge to be a One Piece villain, Zach.
You do.
listen, the one thing that I love about Kuro's character is I'm not saying like I'm evil or anything like that, but he plays the long game. He'll stick it out
Yes.
for however long. Like that's I would,
My
I would
my before the live action series, my description of Kuro, as I became older, was the 401k villain. He just wants to retire, live his life the way he wants to live after this plan with all the blue goop and everything. So yeah, how was it? How was it playing a villain? Just to start.
yeah.
I absolutely loved it. To be quite, to be quite honest, I think when a character is so far removed from you, I prefer those roles. It's almost easier to get into that headspace when it's something that is so far removed from you. I think the closer it is at home, um, I'm just, talking for myself here, but what I find difficult when a character is slightly closer to me and who I am, there is that sense of fear where people are judging you and not the character, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But Hero, he was so different from who I am. It was really
That's good.
You could kind of have like the most fun with it, and that's
Yeah.
one thing that like as I was poking fun at Zach earlier, that's the one thing that like I think that episode is honestly one of my all-time faves, and it happens to be one that I know like has hooked a lot of people because you gave
Yeah.
life to this character that like I think is even better than what was actually in the anime and in the manga and stuff like that because
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
like not that he didn't like fall flat or anything like that in the anime or in the manga and stuff like that, but like I kind of love this almost like Nightmare on Elm Street type.
It's
Like
very different. Yeah.
it made it like people were like, oh my god, this is like a horror show now. I'm like One Piece is dark, you guys.
I mean, One Piece is dark.
Blue collar Freddy Krueger.
But like
yeah.
It's that Kuro was a dark. He was a guy with poop on his shirt. That were design, not literal, and he pussyfooted around, and he was very and he had claws. But this is a very in the live action. Yeah,
But
I did not know I was going into this watching a horror movie. But wow.
as like I'm a horror fan, but as like just that episode is honestly one of my favorites, and it's a lot of it's due to like how you played that character and how it kind of immersed you into this world where like I did really think of like Crow, and now I'm just like I love him. and that again it's like because I could see how much fun you were having playing him because again like being a villain and being the opposite of yourself because like you are you're very nice and sweet man. I can't see you're not anything like that. It is just it's so much fun, and it is again one of my all-time favorite episodes of the live action.
Thank you. It absolutely means a lot to me because I think I take my work extremely serious, and sometimes I think I take it too serious where I forget to have fun. Um, but I think with One Piece and Kuro, after I found out, with the pseudonym Project Panda, that it was One Piece, um, and that I was going to play Kuro, the weight of that to to do this justice. And I think that weight was sort of on everyone who was involved with this production. Because we know that, I mean, if I think back at some of the shows that I grew up watching, there is there is a sense of nostalgia there. Um, going through your life, you resonate with what these characters are going through, and it helps you through your journey as well. And to have the weight of one piece that people from all over the world resonated with, and all these characters, and to do it justice, was quite daunting. But I think, what we did was absolutely magical, and to be a part of that was a dream come true.
Yeah.
Jumping off of what Brodsky was saying, because this is something that I've really been turning over in my head. There's a lot of trepidation with projects like these, especially like live action, especially when it comes to anime, where you see sort of in the production side of it, where it's like we need to sort of put somewhere grounded in this character, like, oh, there were some sort of fantasy anime drug dealer, and now it's like, the character out of Breaking Bad. And I think a lot of people have retracted from that kind of approach. So it is a very interesting change of pace that it's just straight up actual Kuro from the manga. It's like they didn't do anything. Anyone who has watched anime for any amount of time, like, sees the glasses push and has like a stroke. It's like, wait, this doesn't exist. No one does this.
That's
but
the
that
coolest.
comes with its own
That's
challenges.
always been one of the coolest things about Kuro. I think sorry to interrupt.
That's a power
but
move.
Oh, it is.
But I know, like, another Alex, who is our co-host on the main show, was I think was talking about how, like, even when they were younger, just going around, like, this such a cool thing doing the glasses thing. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. But Delaney, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, there's like that has its own challenges. So I'm wondering if there was anything that, like, how did you kind of start at square one with, we are just making this guy happen, instead of sort of trying to retrofit him into a whole new deal, outside of the we're going to make him a serial killer angle, which was maybe less prominent in the source.
Slightly
less.
I think what was important for me, as my job as an actor, is to not judge this character, is to try and understand where, the motives. Who is he? Where does he come from? What happened in his life? And I think, especially with villains, and again, I don't want to, generalize, but there's some deep-seated trauma somewhere in the childhood, that could motivate this character. And when I got the thumbs up that I got the role and I received my scripts, I decided to work with a therapist. So I went to therapy as Kuro.
Wow.
Oh,
So for about 2.5
Ooh.
months, yeah, it was about
That would be a series I'd be willing to watch. That sounds great.
It was.
Did you tape that? Was your therapist okay with you taping that? Like, can we see it though?
I have all the recordings on my phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, 'cause
amazing.
I definitely I recorded all my sessions to go listen back, because sometimes when you're in that zone you forget the things that come out instinctively, because the character, when you start doing your research and you try and find the rhythm of the character, how he moves, little movements like the glasses or the way that he walks, once you've got that, the character is there, and it's to trust that process, that it will be truthful. And I think with the therapy, in those moments, it was just, because we essentially split the sessions into four characters. The child, then there was just the man, then Kuro and Klahadore. And we would sometimes in these sessions say, okay, cool, today we're going to have a conversation with the child and Klahadore, or the child and Kuro, or the man and Kuro. To have these conversations and to find the layers within those personas, essentially. And it's through these sessions that and I must also say, like, Bianca, who played Sham, whom I absolutely love her.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
amazing people and kindest people. And we would also have these little get-togethers where the two of us and eventually I think yes, Albert was also there, who played Butchie. And we would have these like little get-togethers and just try and find the dynamics within the three of us and the way that we move. And if it's just the two of them, when I enter a room, how do they change their posture or stuff like that? It was so much fun. Sorry, I'm
No, that's
No.
what you're here for.
Honestly, that is
All of this is gold, man.
It is so much. It's my.
Frosty,
I was
you okay?
No, I was agape the entire time. You could not see it. That's why I'm
Okay.
again glad
Okay.
my camera's broken.
Okay.
But just like hearing that, it's such a fun, such an interesting process and such like a interesting way of like tackling a character like that. Like honestly, the thought of like doing therapy like as the character and like interacting and like working with your course and kind of getting that.
I'll say
mindset
almost every
outside.
One Piece character does need therapy.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
So it works well.
But
Even the good ones.
That
Even
being
the
said,
ones.
I am mentally doing a Venn diagram of One Piece villains who have had therapy and ones that haven't, and I think he would genuinely be the only one on the other side.
Yeah,
Not a
Kuro
single
would
one
be
of those
one
other
yeah.
dudes has had therapy.
yeah.
Not a one of them.
other ones would probably be like, no, he's like,
Can
no,
you
I
be
gotta...
a villain and have done therapy? Maybe they had a bad therapist. I don't know. That's a good question.
Buggy had a bad therapist.
But-
Buggy has a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
Buggy has many terrible therapists.
Not one of them.
Buggy is not one for therapy.
No. Sorry, Brodsky.
But no, it's such like a because you have to get ready for a character, and especially if you're not like, I guess in this question as well, like, have you played? Is this your first villain that you've played type of character, or if you played other villains before and kind of like we're trying to get into a different type of mindset with this one?
I've played villains before, but not, I would say, on the scale when it comes to the depth of the character. Because I used, because I also knew what was at stake here. And it
Yeah.
was also, I think, as an actor, like I remember, sorry, I don't want to jump to
No,
another
no.
section
Okay.
question, but I remember the last day when we did the last scene and I walked to the holding area and eventually they called me in to say that we had another scene to shoot. And when I arrived on set, everyone was just standing in this big circle and applauding. But that apart, it was to be a part of that team. I think it was one of the biggest dreams that I've ever had. When I stood there in that moment, it was, and I get emotional. I get emotional when I think about it because it is the dream that I had when I was a little boy. And to be a part of this on this scale, and I can't explain, guys, like the respect on set, everybody was absolutely kind. The respect was phenomenal. What you brought to the table, and again, not from a place of ego, but what you bring to the table was seen, was valued. And I would say basically for everyone, in my experience and what I saw. And Brodsky, I'm so sorry. I went on a rant.
No. That made you made me emotional.
Yeah, that made me emotional too. Yeah, we said no emotions
Yeah.
at the start, right?
Like no, because
it's what therapy. That's what the Kuro Klahadore therapy is
but,
for. It's to get that out.
Well, we could pause that because like going back to what you just said there too is like not only did like me almost cry, but from everyone that we've spoken to, I think this is what made this series like everyone kind of like knew like what was in stake, but like we have not talked to a one person. I know you can't like no one wants to bash work, but just like everyone's had like the similar reaction to you, where it's just like it was such everyone was so happy and so like welcoming, and it just that like emotion that you're speaking of, like I could probably envision it just because like everyone seems so happy to be working on this project, and don't want to say it's rare in the industry, but like sometimes it can be depending on what product you have. So I'm more happy to know that you guys were like welcomed, loved, that you felt these types of emotion, that like it will stir it back up in you. I think that just means that it was done so well and care was taken by not only you guys as the actors because you felt it and you brought it to each character and you made it what it is. Without y'all, it would have not been what we have. So I'm so glad.
No,
Yeah.
it was absolutely like I remember on my first day, it was my first day, my first time going to set, and they picked me up on where we were waiting, and then off to set we went. And I remember getting an anxiety attack on my way to like I can't catch my breath because here it is now. And I'm going to thank Kuro for this. And in that moment, I went, wait, but this is not you, Alex. This is Kuro now taking the lead. And Kuro is not scared. He's not afraid. But it was also arriving on set, and it was just the energy was so phenomenal. There was kindness, there was respect, and that also just helps you to not have to worry about somebody screaming here or, something happening on that side that is negative, and you could literally just focus on your job, on your scene, and your performance.
I
That's
think
amazing.
I think I recall even in like the early interviews pre all the strikes, and way before the series came out, everyone was all. I remember maybe it was Iñaki saying something like, "Wait until you see Klahadore." That's that. Like I remember them hyping up that moment as well. So I think there was, from what I've heard, I think there was a lot of like camaraderie and not as much ego, which I think a lot of people when they think of acting or actors or the big time, whatever it is.
Go ahead, Zach.
No, I'm not going to finish that sentence.
No, go ahead.
No, so what I'm saying is it's heartwarming to see that kind of stereotype crushed. See, Delaney, I was going somewhere good. No,
In
yeah,
all
I was
honesty, Zach, sorry to interrupt you, but in all
no,
honesty,
you're good.
there was no ego on that set. There, I get emotional when I think about it because I think it is so rare. Yeah, it's so rare because I've been on a couple of productions and, ones that I've been busy with after One Piece, and it's not the case. It is not the case. It was one of the exceptions and I think that's why I'm so moved by it because there was respect for everyone, where there was no ego, there was no like me, me, me. It is we work together as a team to create this.
It set the bar.
Now I'm
One
getting
Piece has set
Especially
the
as
bar.
they're looking to make as much of this as they can, presumably. We'll see how far this series goes, but they are in it for the long haul. And it's good practice, isn't it? Just to have a good reputation among your peers and to create an environment where outside of you get to go be in one piece, you also get to go be in a very supportive environment. And yeah, I know I completely agree with you where it's like that does not feel like the usual
The norm.
situation, especially in the era of gristle for the content mill. It's like
Yeah.
it's really nice that you had the time for therapy and for working with the other actors and for being present with the rest of the team as a team effort instead of we just have to make this happen around you until we have a television show. So that's amazing to hear. How much did you read prior to filming, or did you read any of it?
To be honest, I didn't read any of the One Piece manga because first of all, I didn't know about it before. Well, after we got the name that it's not called Project Panda, but One Piece, and I think I had one round of auditions left, and so then I was like, oh, cool. So now I can actually look this up, and then I remembered. But one of my previous partner's brother was a huge One Piece fan. He was a huge One Piece fan, and because I remember we went to visit him, had little figurines, and I was like, "But wait, I know this character with a straw hat. I know him. I've seen him." Ah, so that was my honest first experience of One Piece. But after I started watching it for that specific last round of the auditions, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with Luffy, his this hopefulness that he has, and it to him it's doesn't matter how, what comes over his road. It could be the biggest thing, it could be the tiniest thing. Is like, well, man, let's do it, let's go. And also how he inspires everyone around him to be hopeful and to go for your dreams, which is absolutely amazing. And I fell in love with that.
So, we'll ask you more One Piece questions later as well, but since that is what we're here for.
Are you, Zach?
That's what
Really?
you're here
I
for.
wasn't sure.
Just me. Oh, prosecutor.
I'm here for actor talk. I don't know what you're here for, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so heartwarming to hear that. I think the live action really captures that. I think, Oda had said something like, I can't believe Luffy really existed in the real world, and Iñaki walking there. And I'd say for Kuro too, like, I don't remember before the live action the last time Oda drew or talked about Kuro, and then when the live action was coming up, he was coming up a whole ton. Yeah. So obviously you did move him in some regard. I don't know how personal. I know he was supposed to come to the set, but with COVID going on and everything, he couldn't do it. But I think you did make an impact there, and hopefully we'll have more Kuro in the future of the series.
It would be such a huge honor.
God knows anyone can come back.
Well, because that's the other thing
true.
too is Oda has stated
He's alive.
that the live action is its own universe within One Piece, where it's like the anime is slightly different
That's
than the
true,
manga. Oda has made it so that the live action is essentially, like, to me, it still feels like a love letter to the main series. So yeah, there is definitely a possibility, because I would honestly enjoy that. Because he's brought back other villains in the manga. They always pop up.
Yeah,
now and then.
Kuro's one of the few who hadn't really come up, which was interesting because he was trying to retire.
Yeah.
To be fair, like, he doesn't really want to be involved.
But like, now that you're kind of like in that world, once you know that One Piece, like, I can see what you said before, where it's like it is like a daunting thing, where it's like you finally find out it's One Piece, and then you see like the fans and the world that is One Piece, and it is like a very kind of like scary thing to like dive into. So and to come out of it on like such like a positive note, and to make such an impact again, like, you changed my love of Kuro too, just because I love the element that like you guys took him in more than the series. I feel like I don't want to bad talk anything in like the anime, because like he's still very good. I love that, but like I love how they did it.
It's different.
It's different.
Yeah, it's
like as you like watch probably like watch up to like his parts when you were studying it, just like the way that it kind of kept everything within the house and kind of like kept it focused there and not taking the fight to like the beach and like that whole part. Like, I think it was such a better direction personally to kind of keep everything enclosed in that area. It kind of made it, I think, more of an impact.
I think yeah.
And I think so as well. I think the team that they had to adapt the anime to the series did an absolute phenomenal job. Because I also think when looking at specifically that beach scene in the anime, it would have been huge to
Yes.
try and replicate that with the ship coming down on Luffy, and that
Oh, I forgot about that.
that amazing fight scene,
Yeah.
and killing and the pussyfoot and killing most of his own members during that as well. Logistically, I think it would have been a bit of a challenge.
Nightmarish.
Oh yeah, because like
Much.
as like, in like the industry too, like when you look at something where you have like that sci-fi, like, and you're trying to adapt anything like animation, like where like sky's the limit, where like a ship could fly through the air and things like that. Like when you try and do it to live action, you're just like, whoa, now we can't.
Not the budget's the limit.
We need the money.
Budget and human reason is the limit.
But those sets inside that house are kind of like have you ever done like the I Spy books and stuff like that too? Like where like you look around, there's like always something new.
I guess.
Like
Yeah.
like the sets not only were
Or
like
Clue. For some
Clue,
reason,
yeah,
I get that vibe. Yeah,
like they
They
were,
did
not as ridiculous.
yeah,
a spectacular job, especially the dining area where
Yeah.
Kaya and the guests have dinner. And I remember the first time walking into that room, and it was just all these plates, and it was one of the most spectacular things from floor to ceiling. Um, and I remember that first night when we walked in, they had all these prawns and fish, and what it was so spectacular. But I remember and there was a stage where everybody walked in. It's like, woof, what is that smell? I was like, oh, we really have
Mm.
good.
I
It
in that scene
does
in
give you a
particular.
little extra
okay.
sense of the character, doesn't it? Where it's like, oh yeah, I did all of this. This was all me. For like how many odd years? I forget how many years because I don't have a dictionary. Zach, how many years was it?
For what?
For, how long was he there
I think it was
at the house?
3 years.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't as long as you'd think. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry, not doing my job here. But yeah, it was a while. I
A
mean,
number
that plan,
of years, a lot of
yeah.
work.
So, and someone, I heard a criticism that the plan was like, yeah, it's very convoluted and ridiculous. But the one in the manga is equally convoluted and equally ridiculous, which is kind of supposed to be. It's that over the topness that's so. I don't want to say charming about Kuro, but it is charming.
no, no,
in
no.
in its own
He's
villainous
charming.
way.
Like you play the long game. Like for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
I've stayed in the same building I've lived in for like 10 years, and I've moved up back to Florida. I wait, find my
I'd also
Working hard, hardly working.
Yeah.
because he's considered as one of the most intelligent villains in that world.
Oh yeah,
I could imagine, especially like doing my backstory for Kuro, I could imagine, because he was so intelligent that it's all part of because he wanted, if I remember correctly, and please, if I'm wrong about this, please tell me, that he in the anime, because he takes Kaya shopping and he sort of like befriends the villagers, which I could
Yeah, I think you're right.
yeah.
essentially see as part of his plan, um, to befriend. If this character is a psychopath, that I could see the techniques of trying to sort of like befriend all the people in the village, and therefore there will be peace for him later on, if he decides to kill Kaya off and take the mansion, and he would not ever be considered a villain. He would be considered Klahadore, and he's taken over Kaya's mansion, and everybody knows him and loves him, and he's
More
peaceful.
like a hero in his own way. Because I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about it too, like you have to have like the most charisma of a character to even like get by like Mary too, which has been
Yes.
with her like and like her family stuff like that. Like he has such a charismatic character. Yeah, he can befriend anyone, get in there, and like if his plans all went the way they wanted before Luffy got there, it would
I
have
mean,
he would
he's
have
also
won.
such a good. He's also just such a good foil for Luffy and Usopp, in that those characters are boisterous and happy and loving. Kuro. I mean, I don't know about the loving part, but maybe
In his own
specifically
way.
his
Well,
Well, he's
retirement.
everyone's friend. He just sucks.
He loves in his own specific
Yeah,
kind
we,
of. He loves
we should ask the
himself.
therapist more about that. Klahadore might be more loving.
Yes, I think
It's for
Kuro,
self-love.
Kuro definitely, in my opinion, I think, or I could imagine that because he says, he hated being a pirate. He hated the people on his boat, and being chased by the Marines. He just hated all of that. So essentially, he just wanted peace. And I could also see that I could see him being quite lonely,
Yeah.
essentially. Because when I did his backstory, and I know this, but it was just for me as an actor to try and root it into deep emotion, and also try and find the empathy for this character. Um, was to try and build a story where perhaps his mother, was very gentle, very kind, but he had an abusive father, and his mom used to, sort of like tell him these beautiful stories to try and, escape from this world. And somehow, in my backstory, his dad was somehow involved and hated, involved with the Marines and hated the pirates. And I think this hate that Kuro could have had for his father was like, I'm going to prove to you that I will become this thing that you hate, and therefore becomes it. But at the end of the day, also realizing that, oh, I hate it as well.
Yeah.
I'm not this. Yeah, I hate this chase, the fighting, the stupid people that I need to work with in order to survive. I just want peace. So that was sort of like a backstory where that I worked with, and I think in that moment where Kira stands in front of Kaya, and that portrait before he slashes it as well, um, where he talks about, and all I wanted to do was rip your tongue out. I miss my mommy and my daddy was the line before. Um, where I think that was Kiro talking in that moment. For me, that's what I try to root it in. There was this moment of like, Kiro, he missed his mom and his dad. And in that moment, it's like, "Ugh." And then
I
all that.
love that because it's such like a smart thing. Again, like I can't commend you more like doing like the therapy and kind of like going through, say like what his issues would be, because it kind of
He
it
has a
helps.
lot.
It does, and I think everyone does.
Well, I mean, fair.
But like
if you're a villain,
You can't be in
it's
One
true.
Piece and not have
But
issues.
for specific lines
That's
like
true, too.
that too, that you're talking about, where it's like slashing and trying to like think about like his own like trauma. It's like, why would his, like, what his parents are just being just like, I have to deal with this like girl that just keeps like crying and crying about her parents. Well, like you're thinking about your past, and you were trying to like, when you start seeing like the veil crack when he's letting his like little mask down, and he's just kind of cracks in that moment. It comes across it's really really well.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is also really smart how it is just kind of internally we've just kind of made him Darth Usopp, where it's like, I have a bad relationship with my dad and my mom's telling me stories. It's like, but like that's one of those things, because I've been thinking like, what do the people who come to bring the additional work to the table, what can they offer? Like, what extra levels and layers can that add that Oda was probably not thinking about? And I think that's just such a smart way to go about
yeah.
it. It's like, especially with the overall thesis of like people who lose their dreams, or who develop maybe adverse relationships with what they dreamed of. And it's such an interesting parallel that it was very much a similar thing with Kuro, because you got to think about it like that. It's like no one just sort of manifests without an idea of what they want.
Yeah. And then
Those people don't exist.
sometimes you get what you want, and then you realize, oh, this is not what I wanted. I hate every.
Yeah,
Oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps
I've been there too.
This is terrible.
that's
Yeah.
what happened to him, perhaps, where he's like, I'm going to become this because my dad hated it. And oh, wait, no, I don't love this. I also hate this.
Is there anybody else in the Klahadore teeny, like any other influences that you pulled from when you were doing the work, or did you really just bring it?
Did you call it a
from the ground up?
Klahadore?
What of it, Zach? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do we want to
That's just
debate
an
it?
interesting.
like a mixed drink, like
I was which
Yeah,
mixed
yeah, a
drink? A
little salt.
martini? I guess he would be a martini.
So, like Brodsky, I'm also a huge fan of horror films, and I grew up in the 80s and early 90s. So, Freddy Krueger was definitely a huge inspiration. And then, believe it or not, Winifred Sanderson
Oh,
from Hocus Pocus,
yeah,
whom I really
I
love.
see it.
I can see it.
Oh my god. Oh, it all makes sense.
There was definitely
You
something.
and the Black Cat pirates skulking through the hallways, like Kathy and Jamie and Sarah Jessica Parker. Oh my god, it's all clicked into place now.
I definitely, because I think that it was growing up, it was one of my go-to films that I loved. And even now, I try and watch it once a year because it's that sense of nostalgia that I have that growing up, that was the film that I went to. And I definitely used a little bit of Winifred Sanderson and definitely Freddy Krueger combined with finding Kuro and his own backstory within that. And then obviously what was provided, beautifully provided, by the team. And obviously Oda's work is phenomenal work. And trying to combine all of those elements so that they resonate within me as an actor.
I will say too, I do love that because it's always so hard to get as One Piece fans. Like it's always so hard to get other people to start One Piece. You kind of have to get that one little catalyst in there because like you look at it, it's like it is itself a daunting task to like look at where it's at. But then I also I did love hearing it being like when you finally found One Piece and you started, you're being like, well, you love it, you kind of get hooked. And that was the live action for so many people. Like I have
Well, moms. I do want to talk
Oh, yeah.
about. It's becoming a running joke, at least within us, within our group, that the live action has really taken, the moms have really taken to it, and I think specifically is Kaya and Kuro both good examples of characters. I mean, Delaney and Brodsky, you've talked to more moms about this than I have, so maybe I should throw this to
yeah.
you.
Oh yeah. No, I think my mom really took to it. I describe it because I cannot present anything to my mother in terms of nerdy whatever with her getting into it. At least nothing that I would show with any pride. And I was like, yeah, I'll watch this with my, like, we'll watch it together. We'll have fun. And it really is like apropos of nothing. She'll be like, I really like Luffy. And I'm like, sentences I didn't expect to hear my mother say in 2024. But yeah, no, it is a really great entry point for people who have never, maybe moms in particular, because she's like, oh, it's like a soap opera, and I'm like, you're not wrong.
Kinda,
is the thing.
It's like a horror soap
Which
opera.
I guess, which is not necessarily a comparison you can avoid when the third story arc is basically a telenovela about a butler trying to kill a rich child with laundry detergent.
Yep. Sounds right.
I haven't heard it put that way. That's
Yeah, but I think that's an amazing perk personally. She's excited. I'm like, oh yeah, we're talking to a couple people. And she's like, wow, that's really cool. And I'm like, oh, I got it.
There was also I've received a lot of messages from parents, mothers, and mostly mothers, I would say, that they started watching this with their kids and they absolutely love it. They fell in love with the show and Luffy and all these characters. And I think there was this one message which was so sweet, where the one mom messaged me saying that after they watched episode 3 and 4, her little boy made her go to a shop to buy him glasses so that he can push them up.
that's very cute.
I love that
Oh
so much.
God, the power.
Ever.
Like
Yeah.
I guess it's things that we were talking about, like it, even seeing that like in the anime or manga, it's just like kind of just being like, I don't know, you feel like a kid again. You're like hee hee, like doing that with yourselves.
Yeah.
That's
I-
amazing.
I love
I've
that
said
so
before, one of the coolest things about One Piece, and I think it's one thing that Oda really has, is that kids should be able to do a lot of the things in the playground. Like those are like, I think he thinks about that. And the Kuro thing is, I think, one of the earliest examples of just this very cool, weird, like, oh, no one ever really does that, and it's a cool character related quirk.
I just want you to understand that people have been trying to make that happen for, like, if anyone
we've been trying.
knew an anime fan in the mid-aughts, they've seen them attempt to do like the glasses thing, and finally you've made the dream of a generation. You've realized it. You've made it happen. It's amazing.
No, it was absolutely such a phenomenal thing. And also, for example, to find his walk, because he had a very specific walk. It was very cat-like. And even in the anime, there was this one scene where he walks down this corridor and then you have the moon, I think, coming through the window. And then, if I remember correctly, there were also curtains. But I just remember this distinct walk that he had, which was almost like a panther.
yeah.
Uh, And that was also something that myself and Bianca try to explore, how do we move? How do we walk? And with the therapist, we worked with the energy of cats. Strangely enough, I want to tell you this. This was one of the most weirdest things that I've ever experienced. Sorry, I get very excited.
No,
No,
please.
please, please, I love it.
No, I need to hear this now.
So in therapy, before we started, she would ask me, I would go in as Alex, and she was like, how are you? No, I'm good, thank you. How was your week? Blah, blah, blah. And then we would go, okay, cool. We're going to do a countdown. And there was this whole procedure where I walk through a door and then I'm Kuro or Klahadore. And then we also worked with cat energy to try and get the way that he moves. And the weirdest thing, like random street cats after that would start walking up to me and purr. I kid you not. It was the most insane thing. Like I remember going to the studio
Wow.
because I do voice work for a studio, and this random street cat walked up to me, and I was like, okay, baby, well, I need to go now. I need to, go to the studio. And as I went in, this cat just stood by this glass door, purring against it. And it was one of the most weirdest, but also amazing things that I've ever experienced. Just cats all of a sudden walked up to me.
They're just like saw you as one of one of.
Brodsky, have any of the cats in your
Adopted you.
have any of the cats in your household reacted to this interview at all?
No, I've locked them out of the room. They're at the door clawing at it.
My dog hasn't started barking or something about it, so
but-
that's good.
Because again, like the
Brodsky, you're gonna open your door and you're just gonna see like
Yeah.
gashes in your
oh yeah,
wood.
no, Marco, he's like I can hear him, so I feel so bad. He always wants to come in here when I'm recording, but I love that because again, like when you're looking at different types of cats and stuff like that, like it's so fun to think that you guys you thought of as a cat too, because the only thing with like the Klahadore too, it's very clean, very proper, and like if you have like a nice like we have one cat that's she's most pristine, beautiful. Then I have another one that I found literally in a parking lot. So it's the opposite spectrums of the types of cats that you have out there. And I feel like if you're looking at like, Klahadore, it's very like the proper, like clean, doesn't want to like get any smudges on anything, always wears the gloves. Like even
Wants
with
to scratch your face off.
Yeah.
And still proper doing it.
yeah. and then you
The cat binary.
have
the
like
cat fighter.
it's two like the two that like are with him, and they're more of like they feel like the alley cat type vibes.
Yeah. Yes. And I
Which is probably why he's so annoyed all the time.
I can't get
I'm a
over
blue
the
ribbon cat.
fact that like do you still
I can't pick up shit.
here's a question though, do you still have cats that follow you now?
So cats are still friendly, which is amazing. It is not as intense as it used to be whilst I was filming. Um, I should have gone for therapy after the show, to be honest, because I remember when we wrapped, because they cut my hair. My hair was quite long. They colored my hair. I had to lose weight for the character. So for a couple of months, you sort of like embody this character in your personal space as well. And obviously with the therapy and also whilst we were filming, sorry, I'm jumping the gun now.
No.
I'm really enjoying this so much. It's just like pop, 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 pop. Um, so I would never so when we filmed and they would change camera angles or whatever, I would never sit down. I wouldn't go to the loo. I I might have a cup of coffee just to keep my energy up, but I would never eat. Wouldn't go to the loo. I would just keep that pace and the way that Kuro moved. And I remember at the end of every day, like let's say it was a 10-hour or 11-hour shoot day, once I stepped out of Kuro, I was like, I had to run to the loo. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to get to the loo. Or why am I so hungry? Oh, because you haven't eaten anything today.
You snap right out of it. You're like, oh yes, I have to do all these things now.
All right, human needs.
Human needs. But it was quite interesting. Sorry, just to bring it back to your question about cats. So whilst I was playing Kuro in that headspace, it was phenomenal. I couldn't explain it. And a couple of months later, I think also when I realized, okay, cool, Alex, you're yourself again. My hair grew out and because I cut it very short afterwards. Um, and once I stepped back into my own sort of like energy and space, that also calmed down.
If this is too personal, this is fine. But how did your partner react to Kuro being so, I guess, present, or the people around you, even not the
So,
cats?
so I was quite
Cats loved it.
the in 2022 when we filmed, I was single. And I'm quite the hermit, so for me it was quite perfect to because, like I said, I take my work exceptionally serious. So go do my work, come back home, recharge, learn lines, or prep for another job or audition. But I think my partner was quite happy when it released. Because that was the anticipation for it to release, because that was all that we were talking
I'm
about.
sure.
So I
Yeah.
think we were really happy when it released.
And how was it seeing people's reactions to it? Because I mean, even podcasting, which is not at all the same as acting, you're in like a bubble and you don't really know what's happening until after, if unless people actually respond. So I could only imagine how insane it must have been that this thing that you and just a few people knew about turned into this like phenomenon.
It was because I remember the evening or 31st of August when it launched. I invited a couple of friends over, and we did the blue champagne.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
but he had to sort of like dress
That's
up a
cool.
little bit. I was um, gifted the wanted poster from the production,
Oh,
Awesome.
and I had my
Nice.
claws on because I they also gifted me my rehearsal claws that
oh, I love that.
I mean, rehearsal claws are good, but
Nice.
are they really as good as the? No, no. That's really cool though.
and I remember in that moment just to be surrounded by the people that I care, that I love, um, and having that moment with all of them and go like, wow, this is what we made. And to be a part of that was I, and to share it with them was even more so.
I mean, I'll say like for me, just this anticipation. This has been they announced this in 2017, and just like when I was watching, I'm like, oh, this is like a real thing. This is, and I'm sure it sounds kind of like a similar reaction. It's like, oh wow, they really created this like very well done, real piece of cinema television. It's just still surreal to me. It's very cool. Um,
I
yeah,
think
I'm sure. Yeah.
in my opinion, I think because Odo was involved the entire time, and then you also had the showrunners, Matt and Steve, who are such huge fans of the show. And I mean, they love One Piece. So it helped, I think, to create this world and have this guidance, and especially with the directors as well. Our director was Emma, whom I absolutely love. She's one of the kindest, one of the funniest people, sweetest. So I think the people steering the ship were all rooting for this and were all big fans, or not were, are big fans of this franchise, of this show and the story. Um, so I think we were just all in good hands.
Yeah, that's
I think
from
so too.
because like from everything we hear from people we talk to, like Oda has to sign off on every single shot. He's made them like redo entire scenes from daytime shoot to make it a nighttime shoot, even after it's like
All
been
right.
fully cut. It's it takes that level of that like love for something, and instead of it being dare I say, like, a cash grab in some cases, where some of these are people are like, oh, it's popular, let's just get it out. Like One Piece, they took their time and they really worked closely. They brought in fans. They have now a whole bunch of new fans that are now working on it. Like, say, like you guys now,
They're all
like,
moms, though. All the new ones are just only moms.
Only the moms.
Well, like,
They're only
well,
hiring
if you
moms.
think
I don't know
about it,
how
too.
it exclusively released to moms, but it's Netflix, so maybe I don't know. They know.
They're going to be flying like an army of 50 to
Mom.
60-year-old women into South Africa. It's like, yeah, all right,
That'd be
tech team, then that's
that'd
fine.
be the cherry squad. But like, but thinking about it too is like a lot of these people who have started working on it, like besides like the showrunners and that who have like big One Piece fans, they didn't really know about One Piece because again, you guys didn't know until like right before production when they're like, hey, you got the role. Get ready, it's One Piece, and you're like, what?
Enjoy this.
And then
I don't know what this is, but it's a lot of books.
but like you guys then, so not only do you have like the old fans working on the productions, but then you guys now going into it for the future are now also One Piece fans. So I can't wait to see what they bring in because it's now just this like circle of love and they've converted everyone. It's like everyone's like, I got you. This is what their main goal was, just to get
That was their
everyone
goal, to be fair.
to be One Piece fans.
So
It's hard to be cynical when the guy who's producing the show is the grand poobah of One Piece. Like, the fella's been working this thing for as long as my sister's been alive, so I think he knows. But it is really nice that it's not like something which was only extended to Oda because he's been here. Because obviously it would be just heartbreaking. It was like, here's this thing which I really love, and then someone had to be like, because they had such a rough time working on it. So it is a really
No, it's good
it
to
is
hear
one of my
that.
favorite things, having worked on the series with these guys, that everyone has walked away feeling just so positive, and that they let you go with such cool stuff.
Yeah.
to
that's
make
really
this
cool.
happen.
Yeah, gotta
Yeah,
say.
Gotta frame the clause.
I can't wait because I had a previous interview and they asked me, well, why don't you start, the TikToks? I was like, I'm definitely going to clean my house with the claws. I am going to cook dinner with the claws, and I'm going to TikTok it.
That's
Just like
beyond
having-
me.
I'm going to start that little Kuro TikTok channel.
Listen, if you do, I will be your first follower.
Oh, Brodsky's right there.
I'm right there.
I was gonna ask, is there like video of you playing guitar? Because I checked, it said you play guitar on your IMDb. Is there like video of you playing Wonderwall with the claws on?
Well, I mean,
You just destroy that guitar.
do me a favor, like
Oh, shred the thing.
send me some of these ideas and I'll credit you in the
Okay.
TikTok.
We'll workshop it.
We'll
Yeah,
work-
We'll workshop it.
Let's do this.
Why did you go for Wonderwall, Delaney? Of all
Because
the
it's just the-
songs to,
Because-
the
with
meme,
claws?
anyways. Here's
It's a
Wonderwall.
time.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's a time zone thing, Zach. You wouldn't understand. Thank you, by the way, because usually I have to be up at like 1 a.m. to record these things, and instead I'm awake at a comfortable 7 p.m.
Oh yeah, because you guys are.
She's in the UK right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we ask four questions. They're very difficult, and there's only one right answer to all of them. They're just general One Piece questions. First, who is your favorite Straw Hat pirate?
Nami.
Very good choice.
Very,
Very
I
good.
don't know.
I love Nami.
No
choice.
complaints.
It's on my end.
I really love
No,
Nami. I think her character journey in season one especially, and Emily did such a beautiful job, was phenomenal. I think that her character growth throughout season one was absolutely spectacular.
These next ones are going to be difficult because I have to exclude you from these answers. Most of these, I guess. Who is your favorite non-Straw Hat?
I must say, I really loved Buggy. I love Buggy. I miss Django, I must say. I really miss
Me
Django.
too.
I fell in love with
Yeah.
Django in anime. I think he was such a character, and I really love Django.
You know, I'm very sad. One of my co-hosts was supposed to be here for this. Django has been his favorite character since 2002. So there's someone out there. That's what's important.
But here's the thing. So you never know if they're going to show up because I am insane.
That's true.
And I pause everything. And so there's this banner of all of the wanted posters. And Django's wanted poster is up on the wall. You can see by
that
his
might just
arm.
be like a...
No. It's we've like matched them.
Okay, Brodsky. I won't.
Like you never know. He may show up.
I'm just cackling because I literally just heard you guys going on about how much you wanted Django to come back from last
We did. Oh yeah, we were just talking about that last night. We talk about Django all the time. Is that not normal? Is that not what?
Again, there's a blurbo for everyone, and Django is.
Whenever Django's not on screen, everyone should be asking, "Hey, where's Django?"
That's true. I don't know if that was your answer, but I think we turned it into your answer.
I would say
Buggy
Django.
first.
Look at Buggy.
Buggy's
Django.
also good.
Yeah.
The moms still also love Buggy.
Somehow.
Everyone loves Buggy. Everyone loves Buggy. What was okay? Who was your favorite antagonist? Which I guess may have been answered there.
Buggy, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So what was
really
Django for the last one?
I loved Mihawk as well. I think Steven did a
Mm-hmm.
spectacular job. He was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, God,
Ugh,
I
I
love Mihawk. Yeah,
I love how
especially
sassy he
Steven
plays
too.
Mihawk.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a. We've been trying to get a chance to talk, but the timing hasn't worked out quite yet. And what is your favorite story arc? I'm gonna have to say, except for yours.
Yours, if it's
I mean, you can, I guess.
Other things happen in Syrup Village, Zach. God.
So
Yes,
let's
that's true.
let's put Kaya's story and Kiro's story aside. I really loved Nami's story, her arc, and it was so moving. And I think because she is my favorite Straw Hat, I would definitely say that her story, her arc was my favorite as well.
It is such a good one. It definitely made me, I think, cry that the one scene of them all them. It was literally like when Luffy puts the hat on her head, it's just like, well.
Yeah, that's always yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately the tipping point for a lot of people where you read Arlong Park and it's like, shit, I'm in forever.
This is very good.
I'm stuck.
Don't forget you're here
I've read
forever.
all these other ones and they're good, but this is very good. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The three of you.
No, of course not. No, go ahead.
Stop.
No, just cutting it off.
Who is your favorite Straw Hat?
Who wants to go for? I mean, Luffy is it's such a cop-out answer, but I do love Luffy tremendously. It is a cop-out answer, but I mean, I guess if I had to choose,
I mean, it's not a cop-out
Someone
answer.
else
I mean,
wants the
Luffy
first
is a
one.
straw hat. He's a great
He's
He is
the
a straw hat. Okay, I'll just take it.
protagonist. It's
I know.
fine.
Okay, it's basic. Maybe is the word.
And I'll say,
but not
I mean,
cop-out.
you say Luffy, my favorite Zoro, so it's just as
Delaney.
Me, well, I've always said for stupid reasons Frankie, for actual reasons Usopp, but then Frankie stopped showing up that much, so maybe Frankie? But I got a lot of time for Usopp. I think for the purposes of OPLA, I will say Usopp.
Alexander, how far did you there's no pressure. All the fans won't be storming the gates if you say so. That's one thing. How far did you get in the story?
So I finished the arc with the Syrup Village arc. And to be honest, I'm very tight on time, for example, when it comes to leisure time. And sometimes
I feel you.
because the thing is, and I don't mean to take it to down a different path, but I think, because sometimes you are busy filming and then you still have contracts with studios like voice work and stuff like that also needs to happen in between. And then in between, your agent phones you and they're like, oh, well, we need this audition by tomorrow. Here's a 10-page script. And you're like, what?
you're just like, and then as soon as you get done with that, you're just like, I just want to stare at a wall for like 4 hours and not take anything.
4 hours,
Yeah,
4 months, please.
I'll take anything. Yeah, I agree. I think maybe that's just when you enter your 30s and onward, it
Yeah.
just becomes you lose all that free time to read it. Well, if you ever find yourself with 4 months, it's a pretty good series. I'd recommend it. I'm not gonna really recommend it, but a little bit.
Honestly, I say take your time. I have friends that are still
Yeah,
reading
take
it
your
for
time. Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah. No, don't
it's
do what
all
I
of
do.
these
Don't do
books.
what I did in Jaegerbomb the series.
Oh yeah,
And then all of a sudden realize, oh wait, I have to wait like everyone else now.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
have to wait week by week.
Was that the pandemic that did it to you, Delaney?
It did it for me.
No,
For me, it was
no.
Oh,
one.
that was
It was-
Brodsky.
I was
The pandemic did it for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was running
Because then
It
everyone
was
had
peer
4
pressure
months with nothing to do.
I'll say like I was working on a different project, a charity project that was focused on One Piece, and I was like, I need to catch up because I used to watch it on like 4Kids back in, when I was younger, and like that only went up to, what is it?
Well, that wasn't.
Yeah, Alabasta, but we don't talk about that too. But then I was locked in my house, and I did it in 1 month, and then I was just like, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Take your time, enjoy it in your leisure. It ain't going nowhere. You still got
Like a
Yeah, it's never
like
going
a fine
anywhere.
wine. Swirl it around. No, it was my buddy Joel, who's a comedian in Atlanta, was doing a tabletop game, like a comedy tabletop game. And so I did a little bit of research, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess I should probably actually read
We
the
all
whole
got
thing, 'cause all I
pressured
read
into
was
it.
Thriller Bark.
I wish.
I think that's the key.
I do wish I had leisure time as if like getting into it. Like some of my friends currently from the live action, they're like, "Oh, I really like this. Okay, I'll start it." And then it is now.
You don't know. You don't
I
understand.
feel very
So you're
proud.
using your One Piece branded,
Water
I-
bottles
yeah,
subtly coming into frame.
yeah, totally,
That's amazing.
yeah.
It was
So
one,
classy.
it's beautifully done. It was one of our gifts that casting received when we wrapped.
I can't stress enough how much I love hearing how good like the casting was for you guys, and just
And that you got to keep the claws. I mean, that's a big
honestly,
perk,
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest.
Because again,
Yeah.
it makes you excited to like watch it, share it, get emotional about it as you have with us. So I appreciate all those like the things that you
Same
told
here.
us, because it just makes me more excited and makes me just happier every time I rewatched it. Which I don't want to talk about how many times.
I guess it's also just to be being able to do what you love to do. And it's in a safe space and it's in a space where it is seen, valued, and respected. Which I think is something that we all want, whatever your work is to be in a space that you can go and you feel safe and okay, cool, I feel safe and therefore I can do my job and be excited about it and be happy about it.
Yeah.
But I do get like I come from a performance background. Like that is truly the holy grail for actors.
It is, yeah.
Because even the people who teach you are like, yeah, it's not always you're gonna get into some stuff sometimes. They do warn you, but it's like, oh my god, people like me and I just get to do my job. It sounds amazing, genuinely.
Yeah,
Actor nirvana.
Yeah.
there's definitely been moments where not One Piece, different productions where it's been challenging. It's been very challenging, and not from a way because I think people tend to think, oh, well, actors and it's divas and people who are these demigods and no, it's
I
not.
wasn't actually saying that. I'm just saying the stereotype exists.
No.
Need to be pit.
Yeah.
No. So just in general, because I think especially like if you take a South African context, if you look at some of our legends within our industry in a South African context, some of these people, unfortunately, and I don't mean to take it to a depressing note, but some of them pass away extremely poor because within a South African context, you can't just, rely on your acting. You sometimes need 5, 6, 7 different jobs on the side to make
Yeah.
sure that, I can pay my rent, I can afford food, blah, blah, blah. Um, and there are those productions where, you're not treated with respect. And I think that that's what I loved about the actors and the writers' strike in America, um, because I'm sometimes scared to speak up because I think within a South African context, it's so easy to be blacklisted. As an actor, you won't get invited for auditions if you dare speak up, um,
Mm.
um, because then you're just seen as a diva or somebody who's got a big ego, where it's not that. Um, what I loved about the movement, and I'm going to call it the movement because that's what it was a movement of people standing up and saying no more. Um, Not just, when it comes to money, but respect.
Yeah.
It all boils down to respect.
Yeah.
I went off on a tangent, and I'm so
Mhm.
sorry.
No.
No, it's okay.
No, it's well.
I don't
Also,
want to take too
yeah,
much of your time either. Yeah.
no, of course, and genuinely, this is obviously the very being so honest about the process is one thing, and also that is an illusion about the industry, which a lot of union opponents rely on to then perpetuate, like, oh, we're not treating you well, and it's like, no, you're not. You're not genuinely. So that level of honesty and celebrating when there is that level of support and that level of care and that level of accommodation is something which makes it so important to
Yeah.
speak up about that
Yeah.
kind of stuff and celebrate when it's happening for
Yes,
people.
definitely. And I
So
think,
I absolutely appreciate your honesty on that one. It's fine.
and
Go off on that tangent.
within a South African context, is because we are so scared to speak up, whether, when you're just one or two, it's easy to go, okay, cool. Oh, well, this is a diva, or this is somebody with a big ego. Let's blacklist them. But once there's a movement of people, when it's a tidal wave of people standing together and say, no more, because the base of storytelling, it's if you take One Piece for, as an example, the core of it is hope. It is respect. It is to have respect for yourself, to follow through to get to your whatever your dream destination is. And these are the stories that we're telling. So when those are the stories that you have to tell, but there's no respect in the space that you're trying to tell it. It almost feels like this dichotomy of what you're trying to do and what is actually happening. Um, Yeah, and I think if we could just stand together, especially within a South African context, and
Yeah.
not from a place of ego, it's like, oh, well, I'm not getting paid enough because I can't drive my Hummer. No, not that.
Yeah.
It's a very specific person.
But again, like as
I can
Lainey,
only own one car.
but like one thing too, like as Lainey pointed out too, is like it was so interesting to try as we were trying to talk with everyone that like, how many actors are in South Africa. Like they're and
I was gonna say
it's
it.
so
Yeah,
nice that like it seems to be a majority of the cast.
and it's really shown an international spotlight
Hmm.
on the South African. Well, I'm not even just acting. The whole. I mean, the production, design, and the crew, and I mean, there's so much South Africa in that series. I
It's
sound like a
versatile.
tourism ad, but it's true. Yeah, it. I think I hope that out of this comes more opportunities and you're all insanely talented people as I think anyone could see if they watch. But hopefully the combination of the strike and One Piece could bring spotlight to that for you guys.
Let's hope, because I do think, that we've got a lot to give on this side, in Cape Town, South Africa, Joburg, Durban. Um, there's a lot of people who are, for lack of a better word, hungry to showcase what they can do. And for that reason, and I think that's why I was so excited and I get emotional talking about it. And I'll stop being emotional now, I
No,
promise.
never stop being emotional.
I'm joking. No, don't.
But it is we had an opportunity to share our passions, whether that be acting, whether that be, from the set designs or we have amazing people here. Um, and I think the collaboration between all the teams from whether they were from America or Europe and Cape Town, it was just this beautiful um, bubble, and it just worked. It
I
really
think
worked.
that's a good. I was gonna put a pin there because I'm sure we could talk for a while, but I also know it's a little later there than it is here. I don't want to go too long.
Yeah, thank you so much again. Sorry to keep you so late on.
Yeah, Alexander,
I
it was
want to
such a pleasure. Yeah.
I want to thank you for this opportunity to meet you and to chat with you and be candid and be honest and be emotional and stupid. So thank you for that.
That's our motto.
Yep.
Emotional, candid, stupid. That's what we do. Thank you, Alexander. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure.
So that's our interview with Kuro himself, Klahadore himself, the child and the adult. All four of them joined us here today. Brodsky, first, I need you to gush. Just
I
go.
don't want to embarrass myself any more than I probably have for the last hour and a half you all listened to. Again, like I can't stress enough just how much I adored his performance of it. It brought, again, as I said, a whole new life to this character, and then just hearing his process and just honestly how charismatic he is as an individual as well. Like I am very excited and red in the face at that point. But yeah, no, it's yeah. I'll leave it at that. Delaney, please take over.
Wait, Delaney.
I can't see Brodsky right now, so I'm just imagining them on the other side, just like, help me,
Take it. Zach put me on the spot. I can't do anymore.
help. So I so much loved talking with Alexander, genuinely, especially because you can tell how passionate he is about the industry in South Africa, which is something I've been excited to hear about from a lot of these actors who are getting now this level of exposure because they picked Cape Town to film in. I personally loved the detail when I was asking where else did you pull from. I love that Hocus Pocus was in that mixture. That really jumped out to me because it
I'm
all
very
just
glad
kind
he
of
brought
clicks.
up was it brought like Freddy Krueger, and as I said,
Winifred,
like you know,
yeah.
yeah, but I would not have guessed Hocus Pocus. And
Yeah.
once you hear it, you can't unsee it now. Like
You
it
really
is there.
can't. But like that is the kind of like camp influence, or it's like I think that is part of what makes it so special, that it's like, no, you got to play this dead serious. Like, no, get some of that like fun in there and that juice in there, like to the point where you're getting followed by cats on the side of the road.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
That's
That
incredible.
was truly one of the best things I've heard in any of these.
I
hilarious.
forgot to ask him if he has a cat, because I feel like at this point, like
I meant to ask that too, and I also
kept
forgot.
thinking
And I will
about it.
never know.
because like
I'm
the
sure
cat distribution system truly did pick him during this time. But I guess it's a conversation for
You know,
him
that
and his
happens to
partner.
me. That happens to me on trips. I think I've said this on the show before, but you know, I don't have a cat. Cats don't really care about me when I'm home, but when I go on a trip, the cats just they follow me like I'm a whatever. Yeah, so I what I'm saying is watch out for me and claws, and if I'm pushing up my glasses in a certain way, be suspicious.
Zach got
yeah,
got.
no, I got. It's like a vampire. You just become Kuro if a cat scratches you a certain way or something. Yeah, what a delightful man.
I'll say
Yeah.
too, like the one thing I love the most is like hearing his process with like the therapy and getting back into like the childhood trauma, and like thinking about like the character from when he was a kid to now, like again, like it shows in how he portrays it during very specific scenes, and
It's
so
something
fun
Oda
to
kind
hear.
of does too. Like we know way too much about Senor Pink, for example, because like Oda does think about all of those like backstories. He wasn't going to include that in the editor. That's the reason I'm using.
I mean,
that as an example.
Oda made me cry about Senior Pink, and I hate that.
No, you
Can we
shouldn't
call
have
him
cried
back?
about that.
Can we call him back up and ask his opinions on Senor Pink? Okay, so
he
I
hasn't
want you
gotten
to
there yet.
imagine. No, I just want you to imagine there's a man and his wife is sick, but he
I'm
starts dressing up as a
face-palming.
baby, right? Any opinions about this? What do you think about that?
He could have just quit being a pirate and had his kid and his wife, and no one would have been in a coma. So you could read up to Dressrosa if you're interested in that and listening to us. That's not really
I
a
also
spoiler
love-
because it doesn't matter. Yeah, go ahead.
I love the detail of the way he was describing the backstory that he came up with for his character and how there are inadvertently like parallels to Usopp's backstory. But that feels like something which had Oda maybe had the foresight to do that. It's like because he draws parallels between so many characters. And it is something, like I said, where it's like I really want to ask some of these people stuff that maybe they didn't think of, but it comes relevant later, or maybe like it ties in sort of unexpected ways in very particular cases. But that was such a cool surprise where it's like someone who ingratiates themselves to the rest of society and also just realized his dream was garbage even though he was doing it out of spite. I love that. I love that whole explanation. I was like, I love this guy.
I mean,
amazing.
I bet you Oda has a backstory for Kuro, and that makes me wonder how close it. I don't know if he still remembers it, but it makes me wonder how close that was to.
And is it as good though? Is it as good
And
as
I'll
that?
That's
He was
also
like-
the question. Yeah.
Kuro was always one of my favorites because I, as my friends constantly know, I play the long game no matter what. Like I am there for like I operate completely out of spite half the time, and just like looking at this character speaking as he's tired.
What are you
he
up
wants-
to with us right now? Is the question?
Oh, don't worry, Zach. You'll know you'll know in a few years. But
Years. Okay, cool.
How'd you like that Gatorade I sent you over, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't forget anything blue that
Gatorade.
comes in the mail. But just literally the long con and getting what he wants, but then like snapping because you have like this kid come in and just completely like upturn his entire life. He's just like, I was so close.
By not thinking about it, but Luffy's lack of thought is what completely derails his entire business.
His entire
It's-
like
Chaos child.
like methodical plan gets derailed
Kuro is great because he's Luffy's foil, like in such a in demeanor, and thought process, and I think that comes out so much better in the live action. I think I've said before, and I wasn't just saying to butter Alexander up. I really did enjoy the Kuro material much more in the live action. I thought it was such a unique. I mean, it should be unique. The live action series should be its own thing. And it was really great, I think, seeing it exist in its own way. You know, if people want the original material, they have the original material. They have the manga, they have the anime. This is such a fun departure.
again, it's a love letter to the original series because
It's a love letter to Kuro in particular, I feel like. Usopp, I feel like, we've said, does not get enough time. I don't think that's the fault. I think that's the fault of Netflix. I think we could blame Netflix for that specifically, the company. But
like,
I think this is definitely a love letter to Kuro. That arc is his.
I have gushed about those prior again. Not buttering him up, but like even before we did the interview, when I was watching it, like I was watching a friend who was like not like, and the way that I was talking about those particular episodes and talking about how Kuro was in like the manga and anime, but like the switch in love of what they did, because again it made it more of this like horror, like this like you could hook someone on OPLA, like if you start from episode 1, but like, you make them watch those two, they're gonna be like ooh. That's when kind of like I think a lot of people turn. They're like, "Oh, this is going to be a little different. Ooh, it's going to be spicy."
Yeah, I think that's what people had like their opinions of the series solidified one way or the other, because it's either it was the series that they wanted or didn't know they wanted, or that it just wasn't their thing. Yeah. Because it definitely becomes such its own thing in those two episodes in particular. Which again, I think is good.
Like
I think sometimes
the
when it's trying to copy
of those ones,
I think it's trying to get like the heart of what that arc was about and put it into a different place is an important thing to do when you're bringing an anime or manga to live action. Is it done perfectly? No, but I think I will say, like, Kuro we talk about Luffy come to life. I think Alexander definitely
He brought new life to Kuro.
Well, yes, but what I was going to say is that I had like no doubt in my mind he was Kuro watching him. I'm just like, this is just him. Whether you like Kuro or not, this is Kuro. Yep. this is
Love
that
it or hate it,
character.
that do be a Kuro.
That do be a Kuro. That's
That
true.
do be Kuro,
That's
though.
what I always say. That he does. Yeah, any final thoughts? I mean, definitely check out Alexander in all of the social media, as we mentioned, and have in the description, hopefully. And yeah, there'll be more OPLA with the real-life flesh people, I think, as Delaney put it, in the future.
If Steve wasn't here to do it, I had to.
No, that's true. I guess.
Someone needs to take accountability,
Anyway,
Zach.
that's true. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See you next time.
Opla.
OPLA!